Okay, you're supposed to sit like cute and look cute next to me while I do this video instead of you're being a problem. I don't. Hi, welcome to It's Lit with Francesca and Doug for right now. We'll see how this works out. Yeah, anyone who says making YouTube videos looks easy, like anyone can do it, yeah, not true. Because it's taking me like almost an hour to like just set up this very basic lighting and audio and make sure my webcam is reading the right thing and getting OBS software to work. And I have no, yeah, if you're looking for a YouTube channel that's gonna have a lot of flashy graphics or, I don't know, like fancy shit that other people do. Oh, I don't think I'm supposed to be cursing. But anyways, I'm not gonna have that anytime soon because I'm trying to do everything myself. Just got webcam, laptop, and several different lights strung around me, so it like looks halfway decent. But if you're here for content about interesting books, writers, I have a lot of cool things planned. I'm gonna start talking to people about the books they love, the books that like really changed their lives. And I thought I'd start this first video by talking about 3 books that came out in 2018 that I really enjoyed. They're like books that I love so much that I actually own them. Not every book that I'm going to talk about in this videos are ones that I actually own. I go to the library a lot, as everyone should. And not every book that I'm going to talk about I own like a physical copy. I actually read a lot on my Kindle. Maybe that's something we can talk about in a future video because I'm really interested in what people's reading practices are, and how, like, you know, and how technology shapes that. So I'm going to talk about these 3 books. They actually seem like very different from each other, and they are, but there's kind of a lot of interesting things that unite all 3 of them. I'm back. I left because Doug was chewing so loudly that the microphone was picking it up. So I gave him a rawhide and put him away for a second. Maybe he'll come back out, but he's been very distracting all morning. The first book I wanted to talk about is Tillie Walden's On a Sunbeam. It looks like this. Yes. And I wanted to talk about that book first because sometimes people that I know that are avid readers but don't really read comics as much, people want to get into it, but sometimes it feels, I don't know if other people feel like this, if they don't read a lot of comics, or maybe they read a bunch of comics like a long time ago, and haven't in a while. It sometimes feels like overwhelming slash like kind of intimidating to go ahead and like jump back into reading comics, especially if you're someone who's gone to a local comic book shop and like picked up single issues, and then you just like feel like, I don't know, I feel like that sometimes, that like now I have all these like single issues to catch up on in my house, or maybe I'm not even really that interested in superheroes, which I am, but that we'll talk about some other time. But this would be like a good book, I think, if you aren't super well versed in reading comics. Even if you are, it's an amazing book to read regardless. But it's a great one, especially if you're interested in any sort of like sci-fi, more fantasy things, and are maybe a little bit sick of kind of just like very basic genre things, because Tillie Walden's approach to it is more of like a character-driven story about, it's like an epic, it is like an epic adventure story. It's got some mystery into it, but it's also like really grounded in kind of very very realistic interpersonal relationships, and there's like kind of really nice, really sweet romance at the heart of it, and so all of that like grounds this kind of fantastical story in like a really amazing way. So that one, I think anyone who you know, likes to read good books would enjoy it. Like Tillie Walden's one of my favorite cartoonists. I think it's interesting that this book came out because it's very much like a fantastical story set in space. But people probably, if you've heard of Tillie Walden, would maybe know a little bit more about her work because of the book Spinning, which was like a memoir that she wrote about her time being an ice skater. So I think it's cool that that this book, which is actually like based on kind of the web comic version of it, which I actually never really read or went through. I think it's still up that you can see it and look at it, but I'm really glad that I got this book, and kind of like I like how like meaty it is, and how it's a very like atmospheric. If you like I would say if you like Miyazaki style movies, you'll probably really like this book, because it has some of the, even though her drawing style is quite different, it has some of the same kind of like moody feelings of like a Miyazaki style film. So anyways, I think everyone should read this. I think everyone should read Tillie Walden in general. Okay, the next book I'm going to talk about is Unwifeable, and that's a memoir. It looks like this. Look, yeah. I'm really into I think the cover is one of the best. This is probably one of the best covers that's come out that I remember in like recent years. It's like so dope because it's like definitely it like epitomizes like what the book is, because it's like a really, really great memoir written by a woman, but it's not like a cozy chick lit type memoir. Not that there's anything wrong with chick lit, but this kind of gives it like kind of the right vibe, like the right vibe. It's like that millennial pink business, but it's a like almost like a Valley of the Dolls style like text, and like the cigarette butt. No, I'm obsessed with it. It's amazing. Mandy Stadtmiller is one of my favorite writers of all time. She is someone that I actually have the pleasure of like knowing personally, which is really, really cool. I've been a long time fan of her like journalistic works, her personal essays, just like I think she's a tremendous writer in general. But she's also like a really, really, really good friend of mine, someone I consider like a mentor. But even if I didn't know her, this book like will knock your socks off. It's a great, like completely unconventional and like uncliche memoir and approach to like writing about like her own life in a way that's like so refreshing. And the last book I wanted to talk about is this one, which my copy like looks so embarrassing. It was I don't know if other people have ever done this. It's like you forget that there's a book in your backpack, but you're already carrying so many other books that the book actually like gets like crushed. And like so this one's like this now because I got paperback. It's Any Man by Amber Tamblyn. So this is Amber Tamblyn. People, if you were like, oh, that name is familiar, it's probably because she's like a super famous actor. She's Tippy from Sister to the Traveling Pants, which is like, you know, people, I think everyone and their mom literally has seen that movie. But I actually like didn't know that much about her writing until one of my friends a couple years ago invited me to come with her to a poetry reading that she was doing here in town. And I was blown away by her like works of poetry. And so I have like all of her books, and I actually know more familiar now with her writing than like kind of her acting. But anyways, in 2018, she came out with this book, which is her first novel. And the novel is like another sort of, I don't know if people have kind of realized the theme. Not only did I pick all these books that came out in 2018 that are books written by women, I tried to pick things that were maybe people going outside of their like kind of genre, or going outside of kind of what maybe their kind of audiences expected. So with the Tillie Walden book, it is more of a like a sci-fi story, whereas we I think a lot of people associate Tillie Walden more with memoir, or more of things that are maybe more grounded in like a very like slice of life story. And Anna Sunbeam is definitely still grounded, well grounded in kind of realistic relationships, has a more expansive kind of epic saga tale. And I think people associate like Mandy Stadtmiller more with like her shorter form, like kind of journalistic pieces, her writing on celebrities, some of her other work with like things like the New York Post, which she was a writer of. And then I think we associate Amber Tamblyn probably primarily with acting, and she's also an activist and those kind of things. But also with, like, if you do know her writing, you associate probably her writing more with poetry. So this is very much like a novel, like a true novel that does, but it still does take like a really, I appreciated it because it approaches novel like writing as like more of a like a unconventional format throughout. It's not exactly, I've heard people describe it as like a novel told through short stories. It's not really exactly like that, because there are kind of even more different formats in there. Like one chapter is told as, let's see, I'm trying to figure out what some of my favorite parts are. All the chapters are kind of very, very different, but I would say that I think that this is like a true novel rather than like a set of interrelated short stories. So there are things that are more poetic. There are elements that are just someone's like one of the characters, like kind of all of their social media. One of the characters kind of like conversations, and so it takes kind of a really, really, really cool look at it. And it is also a novel with subject matter that I think will maybe make people reconsider some like kind of very big ideas and things, because it is a story about a female serial rapist, and kind of the men that she has affected are all kind of the main characters of this story. And so it's a really like good kind of look at, it's not like a whodunit kind of Law and Order SVU style book, but it's more of like a really interesting look at trauma, how we process trauma, how masculinity plays a role in our society, how these things can possibly be subverted, and also kind of like what are the limits maybe of the way that we view like victimhood, for example. So all of that's going on within like a really, really like kind of engaging and interesting story. It's a book that like kind of like Mandy Stadtmiller's book, it has like, even though this is fictional, this is also something that obviously we're dealing with themes of like rape and trauma. So it's very, very like raw. So, and it doesn't shy away from, just because the perpetrator of this is a woman, it doesn't shy away from any of that. So that's like a thing to talk about. So I think this is another one that was like, all of these books, I think, not only did they come out in 2018, they were also very like surprising. And I think that's like kind of some of the best work is challenging, and these books are all like challenging in different ways. So this is my first video. I made it through. I only had to stop the camera a couple of times. I hope that I'll be able to do a few more of these that are kind of like deep dives in individual books. I think that's what I'm going to be working towards next. And I have a lot of good things coming up. So please make sure, I feel like every YouTuber says this, and I get to say it now too. And make sure you like subscribe to my channel. And I'm interested to hear what people have to say. Please let me know. Thank you.